Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Wifewithacrush and says, I, 29 female, have been with husband, 29 male, for 8 years. I have feelings for a co-worker, 30 male, and I can't shake. I've been with my wonderful husband since we were 21. We have an amazing relationship with each other, still make time for dates every week and really just enjoy each other. He became my best friend pretty instantly from when we started hanging out in high school, and that still hasn't changed today. I have a girlfriend who I do call my best friend, and outside of my marriage she is, but even that doesn't compare to the friendship I have with my husband. We've had our rough patches, but never anything very severe. There are some things I need to change about myself and things he needs to work on as well. Nothing relationship ending, just things we need to do to be better people and better partners. And I doubt this will ever change, as it's impossible to just be perfect people. We don't have any children, nor are children in our future. We both work and bring home pretty decent money, although we've had small patches of unemployment in the past and were supported by the other. There's never been any hostility over the finances, regardless of who is making more or who is supporting whom. Our marriage has survived depression, alcoholism, and a couple of physical medical conditions, all met with overwhelming support from each other. We are a great team. Our sex life is great and really active. A dry spell for us is going the work week without having sex because one or both of us are just too exhausted, but that is not very common. We get along well with each other's families, and my family has really bonded with my husband. As far as they're concerned, he's just another son/brother. He's everything I could have ever hoped for in a husband and more, and I really, truly love him. Now, I felt myself attracted to others in the past, and I'm sure he's been through the same, but it's not anything we've ever discussed with each other. I know that it's normal, and it's never been anything too intense before. If I find myself starting to get feelings for someone who I see a lot, it doesn't take much to shake it off. This is the first time I've ever dealt with feelings so intense, and I don't really know what to do next. My co-worker is very attractive, super friendly, and I just enjoy being around him. We started working at this company around the same time, roughly 8 months ago. We were in training together for a couple of weeks, which was absolute torture. My feelings came on strong and came on quick. I'm sure I've turned red when he flashes me a smile. It would be embarrassing enough if I was single, simply because we work together. But I'm married, and I feel like that probably looks really poorly on me. We don't work together anymore, but our departments are close, and if he walks through my section, he'll put his hand on my shoulder and give it a squeeze to get my attention when he's walking by. Then flash me that smile. I'll make conversation if we pass each other or at a work event together, but I do the same with pretty much everyone I've worked with/currently work with. We don't have each other on social media, haven't exchanged numbers, and don't see each other outside of work. I was invited out to a bar nearby by him and a few others a couple of times, but turned them down. I work in a male-dominated field and didn't feel right being the only woman out at the bar with a bunch of guys, especially one who I do feel this way about. I avoid his floor at work when possible, and if he's on lunch at the same time, I'll say hi as I pass, but just grab my stuff and eat on the patio or on another floor. I just try to avoid thinking about him or remind myself of how dumb I'm being, but I can't shake this feeling. I'm not afraid I'm going to be an idiot and let passion take over or any of that nonsense, and I think all of those excuses for one-time mistakes are garbage. I'm in control of my actions and could never be so cruel to my husband. I just don't know what to do to shake these feelings. The last time I felt such a strong desire for someone was when I met my husband. We were great friends instantly and hung out and fooled around for about a year before we made things serious. I was very young when we got together, and none of my relationships prior were very serious. I just never felt so strongly attracted to someone and didn't think it was even possible to with anyone else. I don't compare my husband to my co-worker or vice versa, and that's not what I'm trying to do here either. I've just been able to shake it off anytime I've had feelings come on for someone else. It doesn't matter what I do with this guy though. If I think about him, it's hard to get him off my mind regardless of what's going on around me. I've gone weeks without running into him and he won't cross my mind, but then I catch a glimpse of him when I'm strolling into work and my heart will start racing faster. I have a desire to be around him and to be close to him, and I just need it to go away. I feel like I'm in high school all over again, except instead of daydreaming in class, I'm trying to get this dude off my mind and get some damn work done. I know that Reddit is big on full disclosure, but this is not something I will be discussing with my husband. These feelings aren't coming out of neglect or wanting my relationship with him. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything by being with him. And there's nothing that he can do that would fix this for me. If he were feeling the same way about someone, I can honestly say I wouldn't want to hear about it. If he felt neglected and like my actions were causing him to desire affection elsewhere, then that would be a different story. I know that this is something that would affect him really bad, and I don't want him to feel comfortable for the 40 to 50 hours a week that I'm in the same building with this guy when there's nothing he could do or say that would change what's going on with me, and there's no chance of me crossing a line. I just don't see the purpose in creating any issue in my marriage when there isn't one. And we're starting the comments with Green Pop Rock, who says, I wanted to say you're doing everything exactly right by avoiding him and consciously stopping yourself from thinking about him. Great boundaries make for great marriages. Intense crushes happen. You don't die when you get married, but it's on you to act appropriately and set firm rules for yourself when you recognize it. No making friendly conversation or finding excuses to talk to him, but it sounds like you're doing all that already. I've tried to keep in mind what others have said about you liking the idea of him. Chances are if you got to know him very well, it would dissipate hugely. I know back when I was single and started dating people I had huge crushes on, I'd usually be disappointed when I realized my idea of them was not who they really were. Sounds like you really do appreciate your marriage and all it has to offer. Don't say anything to your husband. Just keep doing as you're doing, but remember, you're only seeing coworker in a rosy light because you don't know him very well. Anglerfish Taco says, even when you have as great of a relationship with your husband as you do, crushes are going to happen. It sounds like you are doing everything in your power to distance yourself from this coworker, so props to you on that. One thing that made me concerned was when I was reading your post is your coworker's behavior around you. Whenever he passes through your section, he squeezes your shoulder and smiles at you. Though it doesn't seem that way, that is more intimate contact that is usually appropriate between coworkers. Sounds like he knows you have this crush on him. He either thinks it's amusing or has some interest too. Regardless, you need to shut down that behavior. Next time he does that, you need to tell him firmly, name, please do not do that. I don't think it's appropriate for the workplace and it makes me feel uncomfortable. It is awkward and uncomfortable, but eventually this crush will fade. Opie says, thanks for your response. I think my wording may have been poor or come off as some creepy work massage when that's not what it is. They do the same to some of the men he knows on my floor as well. My department is swamped with work right now, so it's more of a, hey, I'm here without interrupting. It's pretty common practice here, and I feel like calling only him out could out me. I'm trying to put myself in that position and think, if a hypothetical partner had a crush on a coworker, would I want to know about it? I don't think I would. Especially like the way that they've expressed it here, that they're never going to make a move, etc, etc. I'm just not sure how I'd feel about that. I think I'd be very uncomfortable all the time and thinking about it and play on my mind too much. But what do you guys make of that one? Would you want to know? Anyway, Opie comes in with an update and says, before the update, I would like to clear something up that I think I may have worded poorly. My job is not male dominated in the sense there are 300 employees and like 4 women. Probably closer to 25 to 30% female employees, the rest being male. We all give each other a hard time and play around. And it's not just all the guys here petting on the women. I've only had female co-workers mess with my hair as they're running by, similar to what I do with my sisters. The extent of touch that I've gotten and given to any of the guys has been a pat on the back for a good job in a rough close, handshakes, pat on the shoulder in passing to get their attention while I'm going to make copies. I've hugged one male co-worker who was retiring and whose wife was there for the retirement party. This isn't a stuffy office setting, but this isn't HR's nightmare either. That being said, I need to find a way to put distance between co-worker and myself, given the reaction he got out of me even with something as simple as eye contact. So now onto the update. I'm friends with my husband's boss's wife and gave her a call to help get his time off. His employer is very lenient on time off, and I just set it up so they were expecting him to call out. We had a romantic extended weekend away, and it gave me a chance to really appreciate him. Thank you to the Redditors who advised putting more focus on us. I don't think I would have planned the surprise otherwise. Now back to work. A lot has happened in the last month, and I'm planning on going no contact with coworker the very second that I can. Shortly after I returned, I found out that he had put in a transfer into my department and had also been added onto my team. No problem, I'm an adult, I can behave like an adult, and the time away to clear my head and reevaluate where I was putting my energy had a bigger effect than I anticipated. Well, things got a little weird. He started grabbing me coffee when he'd pick his up because I took on a new project and was showing up earlier and staying later than normal. I didn't do this for anyone else whose workload had increased. About 4 of us took on new clients. Our lunches lined up a little more frequently. I got friend/follow requests on social media. Declined. Stuff like that. I felt like he would stand a little closer to me than what was comfortable. But at this point, it still felt like I was reading too much into it. It was confusing and difficult given that this feeling isn't wanted, but I do just feel drawn to him, like there's a connection I desperately want to break. I always park by the smoking section because I have a filthy habit and like to be close, and he caught me tonight while I was walking out to my car. He stopped me and asked to bum a smoke, and we talked for a couple of minutes. He then said he had something kind of uncomfortable to talk to me about. He told me that he felt really attracted to me since we first met, and that working more closely with me has shown him that he has some real feelings for me. He says he knows that I'm married and will respect any boundaries I set up, but that he hasn't felt this strongly about someone before, and he couldn't live with the what ifs. Apparently, he went so far as to end things with his girlfriend and is now staying with his parents for a couple of weeks while he gets a new place lined up. He said he could feel something between us and didn't think it was only him. I told him that I am very happily married and that he shouldn't mistake my friendliness with flirtation and that he needs to learn more appropriate boundaries with coworkers. I asked him to give me distance and that if it wasn't work related, there was no reason to discuss it because we are coworkers, not friends, and left. He looked a little defeated and apologized for overstepping. My husband is out of town on a work trip, so I had to come home to an empty house feeling the weirdest mix of emotions I've had since this whole mess started. Like a commenter mentioned in my last post, this is most definitely something wonky going on with our pheromones, causing the weird flutter of emotions. The way he came across letting me know he was okay if I cheated on my husband with him painted him in a whole new light. He doesn't seem like this charming guy anymore, just a douchebag who probably hasn't been told no enough times in his life. I have trouble falling asleep by myself and this whole situation has been a mess, so sorry for any weird formatting. I'm exhausted and figured I may as well update while everything is fresh. I'm confused. I still think he's really attractive, but I'm not equally repulsed by him as a person overall. Edit. Well, this certainly blew up way more than I expected. I just wanted to thank those of you who responded with advice and kind words. A special thanks to everyone who didn't read the first post and have been calling me a tease and a slut. It's nice to get a good laugh in. For those who missed my comments addressing it, my husband will be given full details of our encounters when he returns home. I don't want him getting worked up while he's so far away. I won't be telling him about my feelings towards coworker because they are irrelevant to the situation that is now progressing. Anyways, mini update. I didn't go into work today, but I did get an email from coworker. It starts with what seems like a sincere apology, then offering to buy me dinner this weekend to make it up to me. I responded with, "Your advances made me very uncomfortable, and I will say again that I'm not interested in seeing you outside of work." The second email was another apology while making sure I knew the offer for dinner as friends to make it up to me would still be on the table. I did not respond to the second one, and he has not reached out again today. I'm in a bit of a weird place, growing a bigger dislike towards coworker, while still having those weird primal feelings. Planning a nice dinner in and some Netflix and chill when my husband gets home. Definitely putting in for an apartment change when one becomes available. I spend a little time browsing job postings, but I do love where I work, so I don't think that's the best option. Some comments on OP telling the husband. OP says, "I talked to him a bit before bed and let him know the gist of it. I didn't want him getting worked up while he was away, so I just told him a coworker asked me on a date and we joked about it a little. I'll be going into detail with him once he gets back though." I'm definitely telling my husband about this encounter. He's away for a few days and I don't want him getting worked up over all of this before we can discuss it face to face. You won't know about my crush, just that I've been approached and shut it down. Those are the important details. I've gone out of my way to avoid this coworker before he moved to my apartment, and it became impossible. I never had any plans of cheating, and I'm not worried about my feelings overcoming me. My original post was just asking for suggestions on how to make it stop, since I wasn't doing a very good job of it on my own. Another comment from OP that says exactly this. I know it's something that would upset him. I'm telling him about the encounter with my coworker, since if anything happens again and I need to go to HR about it, I don't want it to be some big surprise. My husband doesn't need to know about my crush because it's entirely irrelevant. OP had to comment on their own thoughts on infidelity and says, thanks, I really am. I'm a lot more sure of myself than I was when I first posted. Maybe it's that I've been cheated on in the past, but I have no tolerance policy for that kind of bullshit. Don't cheat and don't help anyone else cheat. Her thoughts on the guy wanting an affair and says, I disagree, but in an attempt to keep my post short, I didn't go into quite as much detail as maybe I should have. He made it pretty clear that he was open to having an affair with me, which screams sleazy in my book. And then adds, we only ever saw each other in passing, so I didn't have much time to give myself away. That being said, regardless of whether he was sincere or not, there is so much wrong with this and so much that doesn't add up. I don't bushry him, but regardless of what's really going on in his head, I can't respect someone who makes a pass at someone in a long-term relationship, especially if they're married. OP adds a comment on their past dealing with this guy and says, I never flirted with him. We saw each other before he moved into my apartment, and I'd never be the one to start the conversation because of how I felt. I was friendly but didn't go out of my way for anything. The coffee he bought me was declined every morning until it just sat on my desk, or lunches were only at the same time when I left first. I declined all friend requests online and he doesn't have my number. Aside from maybe blushing a couple of times, which is a physical reaction that can't be controlled, and something I do often over mundane shit anyway, so not unusual, I didn't behave in a way that screamed, I want you. Just because I feel a certain way doesn't mean I've acted on it. On dealing with the guy in the office and staying away, OP says, absolutely. I'm also considering putting in for a transfer as well when a new position becomes open. I love my company and don't want to leave over something as trivial as this, but I also just need to get away. OP says on informing HR or her employers and says, I called my boss this morning and let them know what happened. But I'm not interested in talking to HR straight away. If this happens again, I want a reference point to be able to bring up that way. I don't get any sort of, why didn't you say anything to anyone when this started reaction. And I think a lot of people saying it was a very, very mature response to her feelings, etc., etc. Some people saying, this is still messy and not being completely transparent about what was going on is going to be a mistake in the future. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's have another story. Now, our next story is from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Lakehouse5548. Doesn't have an update as yet, and says, Am I the arsehole for not telling my former fiance I bought her dream house? 10 years ago, my fiance left me, 38 male, a few weeks before our wedding. We grew up in a small town. We were friendly, went to the same school, but we were never in the same clique. She was one of the popular kids and I wasn't. A few years after college, I moved back home when my dad got sick. I found a job in my field about 45 minutes away from home. I would help take my dad to his chemo appointments. It was during one of those appointments I ran into X. She now worked at the hospital. One day while waiting, I asked her out. It turned out we shared a lot of the same interests. It seemed like our relationship was going great. About a year or so into dating X, and I moved into a rented house together. The following year, I proposed. We began looking for a house. X always wanted to live in her grandparents' house on the lake near our town. Her family was forced to sell the house when her grandparents died because of an inheritance dispute. 6 months before our wedding, a chance event happened. The couple who bought her grandparents' lake house had grown tired of our snowy winters. It took some work and nearly all of my savings, but I was able to buy her dream house. It was going to be my surprise wedding present, so I didn't dare tell her or anyone in her family my plans. A month before our wedding, X and her friends went to Miami for a bachelorette party. I'm not sure all of what happened. Part of me doesn't really want to know, but I do know her high school boyfriend was there. When she got back from the trip, she broke down and confessed she was afraid to get married and wanted to call it off. It was a mess. She later moved to Florida and eventually married high school boyfriend. I ended up moving back to the city for an amazing job. In the meantime, I still had the lake house. With the help of my mum and dad, we started to fix up the lake house. It took a few years. My mum and dad would look after the contractors while I was in the city. Having the house was perfect when everything locked down. I was able to escape the city and work remotely from the lake house. I now live here full time and work remotely. This summer, we had 4th of July at the lake house. My sister-in-law used photos from the lake this summer in her Christmas card. One of those cards made it to X's cousin. The cousin recognized the house. The Saturday before New Year's, X's mother and sister were at my front door. After pleasantries and answering their initial questions, they made an offer to buy it. I refused. They were not happy. A few days I got a long text from X. This was the first time in about 9 years she has talked with me. She called me an arse for keeping this from her. Her family is blaming her for losing the house again. She then asked me to sell. I still have no intention to sell. Now her and her family are complaining on social media that this is some sort of revenge. Am I the arsehole? Now instantly, petty Mark has popped up in my head and wants to say that you should simply reply to her saying, no, it was going to be a surprise gift for you when we got married because I knew how much it meant to you. What does everyone else say these days? Fuck around and find out or something like that? But nah, simply not the arsehole for me. But Nana Leone says not the arsehole. So after more than 10 years and a presumably expensive renovation, your ex and her family want the lake house back. What a lot of gall they have. Anytime in the last 10 years, any of them could have tracked down the owner, you, from the county tax records and made an offer. They can eat their sour grapes and get lost. I do love it when people sass it up. Dart1126 says not the arsehole. It sounds like they possibly think you bought it to spite her. Show them the property records and whatever proof on social media as the purchase date. Say I bought this as a wedding gift surprise for my then bride-to-be. Since she cheated and broke up with me weeks before the wedding, I have no interest, desire, or reason to give it to her. One more comment from Raven Loran who says not the arsehole, but let me get this straight. For 9 years, they have never reached out to the owners, not knowing that it was you of the lake house, to buy back the property once they financially could. They lost it because of an inheritance dispute, so they clearly didn't care about the property, but wanted whatever inheritance they were fighting over. I'm assuming they never reached back out to you after your ex cheated and cut ties with you. So now they know it's you. They show up and have some pleasantries and ask with the expectation that you sell them back the house. And not the ex who was afraid to get married and called it off, and who then proceeded to move to Florida to be with and eventually married the guy she cheated on you with, calling you, 9 years later, upset that you didn't tell her about the purchase and gift for her, for when you got married. As if you owe it to her. Explain that mental gymnastics, because her family is pissed. Did I get that right? Yeah, not the arsehole. Enjoy your life in the house, and if they keep harassing you, tell her husband that she won't stop calling you and get a restraining order on her family if you can. Gee whiz, petty me is all over the place in this one. I just love to picture her face when and if she finds out that was her gift to her. That would have been her gift to her if they got married. Ooh-wee. Anyway, enough pettiness now. What do you guys make of this situation? What would you do if you was OP? Would you get involved, or would you just tell them to simply piss off? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me, especially your time. I know how super important that is, and for you to spend that time here and listen to a story or two, getting involved, it means the absolute world to me. Honestly, hand on heart. You hear that? Hand on heart. Much love, guys.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Drink some water, brush my